All right, let's dive into these semiconductor reports, especially all this stuff on the memory market. You weren't kidding about sending over some serious reading material. Hundreds of pages on SK Hynix forecasts, charts.
Yeah, we've been digging deep into this one.
I bet. But hey, that's what we're here for, right? To cut through the jargon and figure out what really matters.
Absolutely.
So let's start with something that caught my eye right away. DRAM prices. The Memory Winter Looms report. They're predicting DRAM prices to be 11% higher than everyone else for 2024.
And this is a big but.
Yeah, I saw that come. What is it, like a 40% drop the year after?
38% to
Yeah.
be exact. For 2025, that's a huge difference. Someone's got to be wrong.
Yeah, no kidding. So what's their reasoning there? Why so different?
Basically, they think everyone else is underestimating two things. One is just the mountain of memory inventory that's piling up.
Ah, the old supply and demand issue.
Right. Too much supply, not enough demand. Prices have got to go down.
Makes sense. What's the other thing they think everyone else is missing?
The mobile and PC markets, a lot of analysts are hoping for a quick bounce back, but
Whoa. But this report says not so fast.
pretty much. And they point to things like South Korea's semiconductor exports, which have fallen from their peak.
Because South Korea is. Remind me why that's such a big signal again?
They're like the bellwether for the global semiconductor industry. When their exports slow, it's often a bad sign for everyone.
Okay, got it. So no sugarcoating the situation here. But doesn't all this talk about the AI boom change things? Like, haven't tech stocks become immune to all the normal economic stuff?
That's the big question, right? The report actually calls this converging divergence, which sounds kind of contradictory.
Converging, divergence. Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
Think of it like two lanes merging into one. The AI lane, that's all your high-end memory, that's booming. But the lane for all the regular devices, that's pretty much empty.
Because AI uses such specialized memory, right?
Exactly. It's called HBM. But even though it's different, it still needs the same basic stuff to make it, and that's where the problem is.
So even if AI is doing great, the weakness in the rest of the market is going to impact it eventually.
That's the idea. And we are already seeing some signs of it, like the report mentions how demand for even 16 GB DRAM modules for PCs, that's pretty standard stuff now.
Yeah.
Even that is slowing down. Some PC makers are even completely stopping their DRAM orders just to try to clear out their inventory.
Wow, that's not good.
Nope.
It's kind of scary how important understanding these cycles is, especially if you're thinking about investing.
Oh, for sure. Misreading the signals can be painful.
And then you've got China to think about, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the report talks about how much they're investing in their own memory production.
Yeah, they're definitely a factor.
So more competition for companies like SK Hynix.
Potentially. The report seems to suggest that it'll impact the market for the more basic memory stuff first.
The commodity memory.
Exactly.
Right.
But it's still early days. And, the companies that are really specialized in the high-end memory, they might not be as affected.
Interesting. So there could be some winners and losers within this whole downturn.
It's definitely not a monolithic situation.
My head's already spinning. And we haven't even gotten to the cycle playbook report. And that title alone.
It does kind of make you think of, like, battening down the hatches, doesn't it?
A little bit.
And they don't waste any time getting to the point.
Yeah.
Semiconductor downturns. Historically, stock prices plunged an average of 33%.
Oof. All right. Now I'm nervous. 33%. Okay, that's not reassuring.
Yeah, they definitely don't bury the lead there.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right? This cycle playbook, it's got to have some advice on how to handle things if things do go south.
It does. It talks about these cycle signposts, kind of like warning signs to watch out for.
Okay, I like that. So, what are the warning signs flashing right now?
Well, they say 4 out of 5 of their signposts are flashing yellow.
4 out of 5. Yeesh. Like what?
Let's see. Slowing growth in key markets. Companies investing a ton in new capacity.
Which can lead to too much supply.
Right. Exactly. Also, rising inventory levels. Remember that mountain of RAM sticks?
Right.
And even analysts starting to lower their earnings expectations.
So not exactly a vote of confidence.
Not really, no. And to add insult to injury, they go on to compare the current AI boom to the dot-com bubble.
Seriously. Are they suggesting we're headed for another tech crash?
I don't think they'd go that far. But they do urge caution. Exhibit 4, that chart that compares the AI hype cycle to the dot-com era.
Yeah, kind of scary looking.
It definitely makes you think twice about getting caught up in the hype.
For sure. What
Yeah.
goes up must come down.
Yeah,
Hopefully not as hard as it did back then.
hopefully not. Anyway, all of that to say, it's a good reminder to stay level-headed.
Okay. Back to SK Hynix for a sec. Didn't the winter loons report say they might actually have another good year in
They
24?
did.
Even with all this other stuff we've been talking
It's
about?
more nuanced than that. They're only talking short term. And they actually lowered SK Hynix's price target to KRW on 20,000.
Oh, wow. Okay. So enjoy it while it lasts because,
Winter's coming.
basically.
Yeah.
And what's the reasoning there? Like, what specifically do they see happening with SK Hynix?
Well, remember that DRAM price bubble we talked about?
Oh, yeah.
They think it's about to burst. And on top of that, smartphone demand, which has actually been holding up okay so far, is showing signs of slowing down, especially in China.
China again?
Yeah, they're a huge market, so that's definitely something to watch. And then you've got those PC makers we were talking about before, the ones putting the brakes on DRAM orders. Well, that directly impacts SK Hynix, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
The report actually talks about investor sentiment around SK Hynix, and it sounds like a lot of people are on the fence just waiting for a clearer sign of a turnaround before they jump back in.
They're nervous.
I would be too.
So would I. And to top it all off, didn't the report also dive into their financial projections?
They did, and it's not pretty. They've lowered their projected sales for both 2025 and 2026 significantly.
Ouch.
Yeah, and the projected operating profit is also...
Oof. Not looking good. So all those headwinds are going to catch up to them eventually.
It seems likely. That's definitely the report's take. They see the oversupply in the memory market in general, the demand slowing down, and of course that big question mark hanging over the whole industry.
About AI.
Right. Can AI really defy the natural cycles in this industry, or are we headed for a correction? Nobody knows.
So basically, there are a lot of things to be worried about right now.
Yeah, it's not great. But don't go burying your savings in the backyard just yet.
Too late. Just kidding. But seriously, what are investors supposed to do in this situation? The cycle playbook. Any advice?
It boils down to being picky. Very picky.
So like finding diamonds in the rough.
Exactly.
So how do we find these diamonds in the rough?
Well, the cycle playbook really focuses on companies that have strong free cash flow.
Free cash flow, meaning?
Money coming in that they can use however they want, invest it, pay off debts, give it back to shareholders, gives them options, you know?
Right. Flexibility, which
Yeah.
is super important right now.
Exactly. And the report makes the point that investors are getting smarter about this too. It's not enough for a company to just say they're going to use their cash well.
They want to see proof.
Yep. Track records matter.
Actions speak louder than words, as they say.
Yeah.
What else should investors look at?
Consistent earnings growth is obviously a good sign.
Shows they can handle different market conditions.
Exactly. Oh, and then the report also mentions defensive characteristics, like a low beta.
Low beta now. Remind me what that is again?
It basically means the stock price doesn't swing up and down as wildly as the overall market.
So it's more stable.
Exactly. Less risky when things get bumpy.
Makes sense. Now, didn't the report also look at a bunch of semiconductor stocks specifically?
It did, yeah. They have a whole ranking system.
Anything interesting there?
One thing that stood out to me was how much emphasis they put on total yield.
Total yield. So like
Yeah.
dividends, that kind of thing.
Right. Dividends, stock buybacks, anything that puts money back in the pockets of shareholders.
Makes sense. The more, the merrier. What else?
They also like companies that are really efficient operationally, squeezing every last drop of profit out of their business.
Less waste. I like it.
Right. And here's an interesting thought. The report also suggests that some of the companies that have gone down in price recently,
Yeah.
those could actually be good buys now.
Really? Like the ones everyone else is running away from?
Exactly. Because if the underlying business is still solid, they might be undervalued. But you have to be careful, obviously.
Do your research.
Yes. You don't want to buy into a company that's actually going downhill.
Timing is everything. So lots to think about. Lots of uncertainty in the market right now.
For sure. But hey, knowledge is power.
That's what we like to say. So to wrap things up, we've got this potential downturn on the horizon. The role of AI is still a big question mark,
Definitely a lot of moving
to
pieces.
say the least.
Yeah.
But if you had to give our listeners just one piece of advice,
Don't panic, but do be prepared. These reports really highlight how important it is to understand the cycles of the semiconductor industry. So,
so you can ride the waves.
exactly.
Awesome. Well, we covered a ton of ground today. We focused a lot on SK Hynix, but hopefully this gave everyone a good overview of what's happening in the memory market overall.
Definitely a lot to keep an eye on.
For sure. And hey, if you're ever feeling lost at sea in the world of semiconductors, you know where to find us.
Always happy to dive into the data.
We are. All right, thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.